Got a coupon code from Novritsch today celebrating 1 year ownership of the SSP18. I spent a lot of time deliberating back and forth between getting an SSP18 as my secondary or an SSX23, which my brother actually has, so I'll talk about a comparison between those two in a little bit here. But ultimately, I ended up going with the SSP18 because I wanted something that I could also run in a primary in addition to just being a secondary. I really like the idea of a full auto pistol in that regard. So as a TLDW summary of whether I recommend this pistol or not, I absolutely recommend it as a pistol. I think it's probably the top tier secondary that you can get on the market today. And it actually is quite a bit better than a lot of primaries as well. And I say that after a year's worth of using it in both a secondary role but also a primary role. There's not a single game day that I've fielded this thing where I didn't get at least one compliment on it, usually multiple comments. It catches a lot of people's attention, both on the field and off the field. So it's definitely worth the money. It's quite effective. Highly recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and go into a lot more detail now, kind of off the cuffs impression, experience with it. We'll talk about the different magazines, the V2 suppressor, the front grip for the Carbine kit, which still hasn't been released yet. I'm probably not going to have time to edit this video, so I'm just going to kind of just talk things as they come to mind, and then I'll put timestamps in the video so that if you're interested in this particular topic, you can jump on ahead. But in summary, I do really like this pistol. I really think it's good value, and I think the full auto really makes a difference. So if you're kind of on the fence, definitely purchase the pistol. All right, so let's get into it. So SSP18, it is a Glock 18 replica, which means it has fully automatic fire, which is kind of sets it apart from a lot of other secondaries. It is modeled after a Glock. I don't typically like Glocks, and I really don't like semi-autos as far as the real steel goes. So when I say that I really like the feel and the usability of this gun, I think that should speak a lot to the overall quality. The trigger is very, very nice. It snaps back, of course, when you're out of ammo and you got a mag inserted. It snaps back like this, so you can press this button after you reload your next magazine, which I really, really like. Compared to the SSX23, which is a silenced Mark 23 variant, I was really torn between those two pistols. I'm a sniper, so the 23 really kind of is the more preferred option for snipers just because it's quiet. It has a lot better gas efficiency because it doesn't have any moving parts. So I was really leaning towards that, but I'd seen things where it was the trigger was not very good on it, and then additionally I wasn't going to really be able to use that as a primary. So because I never had a fully automatic weapon before, I really like the idea of getting the SSP18 and running it as a primary on days where I didn't want to snipe. And to that end, I was going back and forth. I didn't really like the idea of having a blowback pistol. I was really leaning towards getting the SSE18, but it was getting delayed. So ultimately, I decided that the SSP18 was what I wanted to get. So I purchased it, and I'm really, really glad that I did. So a lot of people will tell you that you don't need full auto in your secondary, and I disagree. I think that they say that because they haven't had full auto in their secondary. It's really game-changing, and the reason it's game-changing is it gives you a lot of suppressive fire that you wouldn't otherwise have. So I can't tell you the number of times, and you can see these in my other videos, but when I get jumped or when I see somebody, I can engage them with fully automatic fire, and if I don't get them with the initial burst, then I can follow up with another burst that may get them, or at the very least, it'll put them into cover, so that the suppressive effect. And the great thing about that is once you get them suppressed, then you're in control of the situation. You can continue to peek the corner, and then whenever they pop up, you can get them. And so I've gotten many kills this way where we've started exchanging fire. Because of my fully automatic capability, I was able to put down suppressive fire, and then I was able to gain control of the situation and then pop them out whenever they expose themselves. Similarly, in situations where you are overwhelmed with multiple opponents, the fully automatic fire allows you to really punch above your weight class. It's a secondary primarily, but it really functions as a primary and a lot better than a lot of primaries that are on the field. Like, this really is an incredible weapon. And to that end, with the fully automatic fire, there's been times where I've had 2 or 3 people attacking me, and I was able to engage all of them and take them out without putting myself at risk. In fact, my brother, who has this SSX23, so I've shot it, there was one time where I was behind him and he was engaging 2 targets, and he was able to get 1 target, but the other 2 guys got him just because he got overwhelmed. Meanwhile, I was able to just do 2 quick full auto bursts to both of them and take them out from over his shoulder. So definitely prefer it in that regard. The trigger is fantastic. Really like the trigger. Don't usually like 2-stage triggers. This is not really a 2-stage trigger. It's kind of got like a Fox safety on there, which I don't normally like. But again, this is a pristine trigger, and I'm really picky about my triggers. So when I say it's a good trigger, it's a really good trigger. Having shot my brother's SSX23, it feels like a toy gun. The trigger's awful on it. And for what it's worth, he's actually running an AAP01 now as his main secondary, just because he likes the full automatic functionality as well. So if you're kind of like me and you're torn between getting an SSX23 or SSP18, I would strongly encourage you to look at the SSP18 instead. Now, it is louder. I didn't think I was going to like the blowback. The blowback's fun, so I definitely like that after all. It is louder to the point where like I don't really feel great shooting it in my backyard, just because it makes enough noise that kind of attracts attention. On the field, if you're shooting 1 or 2 shots, maybe 3 shots from cover, it's going to be loud enough to where the enemy is going to know your general vicinity, but they're not going to be able to pinpoint you. So it's really not that big a deal, like the SSX23. It's not really going to like give you away. Now, if you're like me and you like fully automatic, and you start going to town with it, then people will quickly figure out where you're at. So I really don't think the sound advantage that the SSX23 has is makes up for the lack of full auto, especially when you compound it with the overall feel of the weapon. But it is something to consider. I don't really think you're going to gain anything by the loudness of this pistol. I do have the V2 suppressor. This is currently configured in medium length, and I'll talk in more detail about this and my experience with it later. It's not, spoiler alert, it's not really going to quiet your gun down very much. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to put a suppressor on it and it's going to bring the noise levels down, it's not really going to do that for you. Okay, so let's talk about what I don't like about the pistol. There's one thing I don't like about the pistol, and that's the hop-up. So it's pretty easy to do right now because the gun's worn in after a year. But when you first get this pistol, doing what I just did right here is going to be very difficult to do. It's going to be really tight, and you're just going to get a lot of resistance. It's going to be really hard to get the gun apart. Now, the reason that's annoying is because the hop-up, you can see, is right here, which means that if you want to go adjust your hop-up, you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to struggle with it. So why is that a problem? Well, in the stock form, I found that the hop-up would not stay adjusted. So when you want to shoot, let's talk about effectiveness real quick. So this gun will lob .32 BBs out to 180 feet with pretty good accuracy. So you'll get the little classic, lift up, probably about 150 feet, it'll start arcing up, and then about, I would say 170 feet, it starts at the downward part of its trajectory. That's with .32s. Now, I've never got the rated power out of this pistol. I've only got 0.8 joules every time it's chronoed. So I've used green gas, I've used CO2. I don't know what to say other than that. I have not got the rated power out of it, but it always chronos as a close quarters gun, which is what I want. So with that being said, you're looking at 180 feet, which is great. So with semi-automatic fire, you're getting, you can hit targets pretty accurately, I would say, at 130, 150 feet, and you can kind of suppress at 150, 180 feet with semi-auto. Fully automatic, it has a tendency to kind of kick one round down, one round a little high, and then one round in the center for every 3 shots it takes. Now, what this ultimately means is that it's a little less effective at longer ranges, especially because you're going to be chewing through ammo really quickly. But it does give you a lot of suppressive effect, and I would say anywhere underneath, say 120, maybe the 100-foot range, you're going to be able to really get whatever target you want just by pulling trigger and giving it a quick burst. All right, so getting back to the hop-up issue is with the hop-up set to probably about 85%, you're going to be able to lift the .32 BBs out to 180 feet. The issue that I was finding with my particular gun is that within about 20 to 60 shots, the hop-up was going from that setting to pretty much full off, just from shooting. And that was because there was, the BB going through the hop-up was just unadjusted, causing the adjustment to turn off. So that was really annoying. Now, it's easily fixed. I've got a video actually showing how to do that I'll link. But effectively what I did is I put an O-ring in the hop-up chamber. So let me take it apart real quick again. You can pull this out, and there's instructions on how to do this in Novrich's website, one of the many benefits about buying his guns. But I just put a small little O-ring in there, and to give it a lot more friction on this this wheel right here, to kind of keep it in place. Now, my recommendation is figure out what hop-up setting you want, and then get it to where it's stiff enough to where you can't really adjust it at all. You lose the adjustability of it, but then you also don't have your gun unadjusting it for you in the game. This has been a frustration for numerous games. Since I fixed it, I've not had a problem with it really anymore, but you know, you're going from being able to shoot accurately 150 feet to all of a sudden you're having to lob to 100 feet or even 80 feet, and that's pretty annoying. So that's the only real big complaint I have with a gun, is that the hop-up, you'll probably have to work on the hop-up to get it to stay in position when you first get the gun. Okay, so let's talk about magazines. I have 3 magazines. Well, I actually have 4 magazines. I got 2 of these longer ones, the extended green gas mags. I got the one CO2 magazine, and then of course I got this drum magazine, which we'll talk in detail about later. So this one is the one I got with the gun. It's a CO2 mag, not too much to be said about it. You can get probably 2 or 3 full magazines use out of each canister. Of course, being a green gas, I've had probably 10 canisters just empty themselves because for whatever reason, you know, this was not tightened, or I'll tighten it and then the next day it'll be loosened. I don't know, whatever. So, you know, that's kind of annoying, but other than that, these magazines work great. What's really convenient about these is obviously they don't really add anything to the gun, so when you get them holstered or whatever, it's really very convenient package to maneuver around with. Now, because it's only 25 shots, it kind of really limits how much you're able to go full auto with it, because, you know, with this thing doing 18 rounds per second, you've got less than 2 seconds of sustained fire, which you go through pretty quick. So I generally find it's actually sufficient for quick engagements as a secondary, you know, for a sniper. The issue is that, especially if you're like me and you like the full automatic fire, and if you're going in, you know, really being more aggressive than you ought to, you know, there's 2 or 3 people, you really start having to kind of manage your ammo a lot more. You got to be really mindful of your ammo. So I generally prefer these extended green gas magazines because they give you double ammunition capacity, and this really allows you to take on 2 or 3, 4 opponents in a sustained bout without having to worry about your ammo or switching. So that's I usually end up running these, and I do like them. The of course, green gas. Now, the issue that I found with these magazines is that if you're using whatever rated gas for the temperatures you're using, so like for example, say I'm using green gas. If it's 70, 80 degrees here in Texas, you know, even at those temperatures, I find these magazines getting cool if you're shooting in full auto, which means you start losing performance really quickly. So I'd actually recommend, especially if you're going to be running the drum magazine, seriously, you're actually looking at using the green gas that's kind of for colder temperatures than what you're playing at. So just kind of as a rough example, if I'm playing, you know, in normal Texas summer, so 90 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm probably going to use green gas. But if I'm running at any temperature cooler than that, I'm probably going to use I think it's red gas, or it's the Dino Puff 14 kg here in the States. But that keeps it from freezing up or cooling down sufficiently to where you actually have impaired performance. And then I think in the winter, when it gets really cold, you know, close to 40 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever, I'm going to try black gas out. So we'll see how that goes. But definitely recommend it for the drum magazine. I have done that in these magazines, and you know, if you're not going to be doing a full mag dump at full auto, it's not going to be really so much of a problem. But if you're going to be, you know, engaging 2 or 3 people and you're going to be pretty heavy on the full auto, you will start noticing impaired performance if you're using the rated gas at the rated temperatures. So keep that in mind. So yeah, I've got 2 of these, and that's what I run. And my brother actually has 2 or 3 of these that he's running for his AAP, and that when he runs it as a primary, he just swaps between these. Getting into the drum magazine, I don't really feel like these are sufficient if you want to run it as a primary. So again, I am pretty heavy on the full automatic because I like it. It's fun. I like being able to suppress targets and really control the battlefield. And you really start to get in kind of LMG territory with this thing, to be honest, with the drum magazine. But the drum magazine is the only magazine that I feel like can actually keep the gun fed if you're using it as in a primary role. So I got the front grip, and I'll talk some more about this in a little bit here, but I got this front grip with the intention of getting the carbine hit, which still hasn't come out like a year later. and be able to run, kind of as a carbine form with this drum magazine, and I was kind of running it as an SMG as my primary days. I really haven't done that. I've only run the drum magazine in with the front grip, which works pretty good, but it's kind of cheating, to be honest. But anyway, so all that to be said, the drum magazine does a pretty good job at keeping the pistol fed, and you'll have to wind it up, every probably, I want to say 50 shots. And it's 400 rounds, and it's probably a 20-second fill of gas. I'm finding, for me, it's lasting me about 1 game. Sometimes maybe 2 games. If you're a lot less trigger happy, you could probably get 3 to 4 games out of it by you pushing it. But if you're wanting to take advantage of the full automatic fire, be able to suppress enemies, and then just have fun with it, which ultimately is what this is about, you're going to really need to keep topping it off with gas every game and then filling it up. So I usually run full automatic, both when I'm running it as a secondary and when I'm running in primary form, but then I'll switch to semi-auto if I need to engage targets more accurately past the 120 foot or so. But anyway, yeah, I highly recommend the drum magazine. This would be the only way that I would run it as a primary, is getting this drum magazine. It's not really easy to carry on your belt or anything like this, and you're not supposed to holster the gun with the drum magazine, but so that's kind of annoying, but I think it's worth the price, and definitely, if you're looking at seriously running this pistol as a primary, I would get the drum magazine. So kind of tied in with that, I got the front grip for the carbine kit, which again hasn't come out yet. So my impressions on this front grip they were disappointing when I got it in. I was not expecting it to be fantastic, but I was kind of disappointed with it. However, after just 1 game day using it, I found that I really miss it if I don't have it and I'm running this pistol as a primary. So take that for what it is. One of the nice things about it is you can actually put in a magazine right here, and it's supposed to hold them. Now, I think it'd probably hold it just fine. I've never really trusted it. It does give a nice counterbalance, especially if you're running these won't fit in with the drum magazine, so I'll put this one, the CO2 magazine, in real quick. I do find having a magazine in like this gives a nice counterbalance to all this weight right here. Again, not going to be a problem if you're running the carbine kit, but overall, it's really not a big problem. It's pretty maneuverable, and again, you're going to get a lot of firepower in a small package. So I would definitely, if you plan to run it as a primary, yeah, pick this up. It's not going to blow you away, but it is going to make a difference, so it is worth getting. And of course, it won't fit in your holster, and I'll actually show you the holster real quick. So I'll pull this over here. I've got whatever the generic Glock holster is that's made for this gun on his website, and it fits in real nice. Haven't had any problems with that. Just easy in and easy out, so I do like that holster a lot. I got the V2 suppressor, so I'll go ahead and show that off right here. It screws on in the thread protector here. It takes a while to get on and off. If you're getting the suppressor with the idea that it's going to make your gun a lot more quiet, it's not going to. Now, as far as the loudness of the gun, I have really sensitive hearing, and so I'm more sensitive than most, I would say. I don't find the gun to be, it's not going to damage your hearing or anything like that, but if I'm shooting it without the suppressor a lot, it's just enough to be irritating. Like it's I wouldn't say it's ringing your ears, but it's enough to just kind of be irritating. The suppressor does help with the fact that it takes off some of that, just the chirp, I guess, and so it makes it a lot more comfortable to shoot continuously from behind the gun. It doesn't really make a difference in front of the gun, because again, most of the noise is coming from the gas escaping through the back here, the blowback action. And of course, the nice thing about the V2 suppressor is it fits in your holster pretty well. But anyway, going back to the suppressor itself, the issue that I have with the suppressor is that twice now, when I'm running it as a primary, I will find that it impairs my accuracy significantly if you're moving around and like adjusting targets. In fact, in my latest game day, when I was adjusting targets and running, I actually had BBs spewing out like left and right. And then shortly thereafter, I was engaging a target at maybe like 50 foot. And I mean, it took 20 shots before I started getting the BBs actually hitting my target. I mean, they're just spraying everywhere. And the reason being is effectively what happens is the BBs start kind of hitting the foam material inside of here, and over time, it actually gets to the point where it clogs it up, and I actually have had 2 game days now where the suppressor gets clogged and I'm not able to shoot because it gets filled up with BBs and it gets blocked, and then I have to unscrew the suppressor before I'm able to shoot again, and that's really annoying. So I kind of had the idea that I was going to, this is a medium length right now, you can get it shorter to about like right there, and then a longer, and it all comes as part of the kit, easy to switch out. But I had the original idea that I was going to run the long suppressor when I was running carbine form, and then I was going to run the medium, because I find the medium gives the best sound reduction without being too impactful on the overall length of the gun, at least in secondary form, which is again what I use this mainly for. Unfortunately, again, this kind of is impactful. Even at this medium length, I get to this accuracy dispersion issue to where it eventually gets blocked and I can't use it. So I think probably going forward, I'm not going to use the suppressor at all when I'm running it as a primary, and then I'm going to try again using the suppressor as a secondary. And if I have problems, then I'm probably just going to ditch the suppressor altogether. But I will say it does look pretty cool. So I'm not saying it's not worth the money. I'm just saying don't expect, it's more for the style than it is for the actual function, unless you got really sensitive hearing like me, in which case you want to take, cut it down in every little area. It does make a small, minute difference, but you're not going to be getting this as quiet as a SSX23. I don't think you really need to, again, and I think the full auto more than makes up for that, but just something to consider. So that's pretty much all I can think of at the moment. I do really like this pistol. I think you're going to get great results with it. Again, compared to most other primary and secondaries on the field, I think this pretty much outclasses every secondary that I've seen. And to be honest, I think it's in the top 10 percentile of primaries as far as effectiveness, like what you're able to do, the ranges you're able to engage on, and just the firepower that you have in this package. So it really kind of punches above its weight class in numerous ways, and I do think it's worth the money. So if you got any questions, let me know. Hit me up in the comments, and until next time.